Добрий вечір всім. Будемо починати. Спочатку декілька таких організаційних в мене буде меседжів, а потім будемо починати. Мене звати Катерина Булавінова, я медична експертка дитячого фонду ООН UNICEF в Україні. І ми починаємо наш вебінар. Ми завдячуємо всьому цьому проєкту нашому другу, я би сказала, великому другу України, професору Йоргу Фегерту, який з нами наразі є, і ми йому дуже-дуже вдячні. З організаційного, будь ласка, не пишіть своїх електронних адрес в коментарях до цього зуму, бо про сертифікати у вас буде окрема історія, куди ви будете вносити свої електронні адреси. Ви часто питаєте, чи буде запис цього вебінару. Так, є запис цього вебінару і українською мовою, він буде доступний одразу, а потім англійською мовою він буде доступний завтра вранці. Тобто можна буде слухати і так, і так. І ви можете писати питання в чатик, і в кінці в нас буде сесія питання-відповіді. У вас є перекладачі, які з нами працюють, тобто ви можете одразу в Zoom слухати з перекладом, можете слухати в оригіналі, ви там обираєте собі опції, і перекладачі будуть ваші питання перекладати в кінці, я буду їх зачитувати, і вони будуть їх перекладати для того, щоб всі могли отримати відповіді на те, що вас цікавить. А наразі прошу пані Оксану відкрити сьогоднішній вебінар. Пані Оксана, прошу.
Дорогі колеги, наші шановні учасники і партнери, вітаю всіх. Я Оксана Zbitneva, голова Координаційного центру з психічного здоров'я Кабінету міністрів України. І ми є імплементаційним партнером Всеукраїнської програми ментального здоров'я ТИЯК, яка впроваджується за ініціативи першої леді України Олени Зеленської. І, власне, ця наша зустріч сьогодні 12-та вже, яка дає відповіді на найактуальніші питання щодо проблем ментального здоров'я дітей і підлітків. Є можливою в межах ініціативи, в межах Всеукраїнської програми ментального здоров'я і завдячуючи нашим партнерам, Дитячому фонду ООН ЮНІСЕФ і Європейського товариства дитячої та підліткової психіатрії і особисто професору Фегерту. Доєднаюсь до слів вдячності, які адресувала пані Катерина Йоргу Фегерту, і скажу для нас, для всіх, що професор Фегерт дійсно для цього проєкту зібрав зіркових фахівців не лише з Європи, але це зірки і експерти зі світовим ім'ям для того, щоб найактуальніші знання були доступні для українських фахівців. Сьогодні ми розглядатимемо тему, яка дедалі частіше постає перед родинами, освітянами, медиками та психологами. Це ігровий розлад у дітей та підлітків. Не завжди легко побачити, де межа між захопленням цифровою грою та ігровим розладом. Коли варто турбуватися, як діяти правильно і батькам, і фахівцям. І це не завжди очевидно, бо така гра для дитини може бути не просто розвагою. Іноді це простір, іноді єдиний простір для дитини, де вона почувається у безпеці, відчуває контроль, чи знаходить спосіб втекти від тривоги та реальності. Отже, сьогоднішня зустріч буде давати відповідь на ці питання. І ми маємо можливість почути експертну думку від провідної дослідниці у сфері цифрових залежностей серед дітей і підлітків. Це докторка Kerstin Paschke, яка є також керівницею німецького центру з дослідження залежностей у дитячому та підлітковому віці. Нагадаю, що ви ще матимемо можливість поставити запитання, як зазначила пані Катерина. Сподіваюсь, що повітряні тривоги не завадять нам сьогодні, втім, подбайте про свою безпеку і бережіть себе. Дякую, що ви з нами. І дякую за те, що ви в чатику лишаєте теплі слова організаторам. Спасибі технічній команді і команді перекладачів. Тож, цікавого нам вечора.
В мене є ще одна така важлива організаційна штука для вас. Йорг попросив, щоб ви написали нам теми, що вас цікавить, які ще інші теми вас цікавлять. І ми зробили велику розсилку. Ми бачимо, що там вже багато відповідей є на сьогодні. Але ми просимо вас, якщо ви не бачили цієї розсилки, ми її ще раз повторимо. Якраз вже пройшов час. Ми її ще раз повторимо. Будь ласка, пишіть свої побажання стосовно наступних тем, бо щедрий Jörg Фегерт і щедрий ESCAP будуть з нами надалі працювати. І для того, щоб зрозуміти, про що працювати, треба, щоб ви написали, що ви саме хочете. А наразі я передаю слово професору Фегерту.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bulavinova, dear Katja, for this reminder, because we really want to serve you the best. So we need your input, what you want to learn and what we should organize. We already agreed, and thank you, Oksana, Zbitneva, for all the cooperation and that support and your kind words at the beginning. We already agreed that we will continue that series of webinars during the next academic year, and we will put up an interesting program again. That's the least we can do for you, the colleagues in Ukraine, to support you. But now it's my pleasure to shortly introduce Dr. Paschke. She's a medical doctor, but also a psychologist. And as Oksana already said, she's the Deputy Medical Director of the German Center of Addiction Research in Childhood and Adolescence. And she specializes in research on addiction, especially on gaming disorders and things like that. But she's also a very experienced clinician, a child and adolescent psychiatrist, working for more than 15 years in clinical work. So she has long-term clinical expertise and also research expertise. And she's one of the younger editors of our Journal of the Professional Society. So she's very influential also for training in Germany. She wrote more than 60 scientific papers. And I'm just very, very glad that some days before Easter, she was willing to give that lecture to inform you. And Oksana Zbitneva already said that in a situation where you want to hide away and get away from all these horrible things, sometimes gaming might be a chance to get away from all the worrying things, but there are also dangers in gaming. Therefore, I think that this webinar is of utmost importance, and we are very pleased, Kerstin Paschke, that you are here, and I invite you to start your lecture.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I'm highly honored to be here and to have the possibility to talk to you and hold a lecture about the gaming disorder. And yeah, this is a very highly relevant and highly up-to-date topic, since it will be in diagnosis in the ICD-11. But usually people are also more interested in related disorders, like what is about problematic social media use, what is about problematic streaming. So will highlight on gaming disorder, but will also touch those associated related disorders, if you don't mind. So I start with a short disclaimer. There's actually no relevant things that might influence my talk. I will show some pictures that might be under copyright. So I have to say that this is for educational, informational purposes only. And just to go in medias res, I want to start with with something Sean Parker said a few years ago. He was the first president of Facebook, and he said, God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains. And with it, he means the user-binding algorithms. Big platforms use big platforms like Meta, like Facebook, like TikTok. And this is of importance, as I will tell you in a moment. This is the outline of my talk. I will start with some background information, talk about the etiology of gaming disorder and related media-associated disorders. We'll talk about the diagnosis, the treatment, and give a conclusion in the end. Digital media is a very central part of adolescents' life. So more than 90% of all 10 to 17-year-olds in Germany use digital media regularly. And this is not only true for the German adolescents, this is true for most adolescents worldwide. The most popular digital media is used by them is social media, followed by digital gaming and online videos. If we are talking about digital games, we're talking about the active gaming, about active playing, using digital games in different varieties. So there's a huge variety of subcategories, including jump and run games. You probably know the multiplayer online battle arena, battle royale games, like Fortnite, for example. There are race and sport games like Super Mario Kart, sandbox games like Fortnite. There are a lot of action adventure games, and more popular also like these little games you can play on digital media, on digital networking sites. And so the most popular games, and this is like from a representative study we did about a year ago, the most popular games among the 10 to 17-year-olds in Germany, but also in other countries, as we know, is Minecraft, is Fortnite, and FIFA, like this football game. And when we're talking about social networks, as I told you, it's getting closer and closer. So digital games are more and more implemented in social networks as well. But usually we comprise also quite a variety of offers. So we have these messenger platforms like WhatsApp. We have photo sharing platforms and video sharing platforms. You probably also use job platforms or social networking, use microblogging or discussion forums. So the thing about here is that you're in an active exchange, that the networking and like saying what you like, what you dislike is on the first place. And this is WhatsApp which is the favorite social networking site of adolescents, TikTok on rank 2, and on rank 3 we have YouTube. And when talking about YouTube, it's also a video streaming platform, if you say it like that. But like when it comes to social networking, we always distinguish this, that it's about like you sharing content, you're liking content, you're disliking content. And then the contrast, when talking about video streaming, we are talking about the passive consumption. So here you just sit on your sofa or wherever, and you just consume, you just watch it. And when talking about online videos or video streaming platforms, you have these series and movies platforms like Netflix, most people use. But you also have Let's Play videos. And here you have another link to the digital gaming. That's why I'm focusing on that. So these are videos of gamers filming themselves while gaming. And this is very, very popular. And you have these live streaming platforms. What is also very popular are the short videos. They have different names on different platforms. So they are called shorts on TikTok or reels on Instagram. And this is a very special form of online video because you have a very high frequency of different pictures and different inputs of different stories, if you want to call it like this. Then there is also offers. You have also offers like shows, music videos, documentaries, sports events. So also a huge variety of things. And the adolescents mostly they like YouTube again. This time on rank 1 and for passive consumption only. Netflix on rank 2 and Prime Video on rank 3. Here I can show you the development of the daily online usage of adolescents, also in Germany, but it's quite similar to other countries as well. And we see that during the last 10 years, it's more or less a mean average of 3.5 hours adolescents use online and the internet online activities. We had an increase during the COVID-19 pandemic. So as you probably all know, this was a period of intense lockdowns, and schools were closed in a lot of countries, and sport clubs were closed. So adolescents did not have any alternative, and they increased their online time a lot. And this was also the time where online offers increased a lot. So this was a time where gaming industry, social media industry, and so on really were on the rise, and they're still. We are also interested in the daily usage times if we talk about this different things like digital gaming, social media, and streaming to have an idea. And we know that half of the 10 to 17-year-old boys and a quarter of the same aged girls are gaming daily. And here I show you the average duration they use it on a free time, like on a weekend day or during a vacation day. And you see it's almost 3 hours they're using it now. And we did this representative study. We do it every year, actually, and we started it before the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you might show it here. So this was September 2019, and we repeated that every year. And you see there was also like a rise during the COVID-19 pandemic, and a bit of decline following that, and now we have a quite stable value around almost 3 hours. During the weekdays, like when they have school, it's about 1 hour less. And now the interesting question, how's this compared to video streaming, for example? We have investigated video streaming since November 22. We had a large rise here. This was a period where in Germany there was an intensive lockdown, and you can see after the measures were more open, the usage times declined, and we have like almost 2.5 hours on free days for girls and boys who use it a day. And this is the line for the gaming, for the social media. And you can see this line is above all the other lines. So social media is definitely the digital medium that is most popular, used by more than 70% of the adolescents on a daily basis. And it increased also during the COVID-19 pandemic. But the difference here is that it did not went back to a lower level, but it stays high. So here we have still more than half an hour or even more of more media usage time than we had in 2019. And the reasons for that, I'm talking about that in a while. Here's another statistic saying that 96% of all German adolescents have their own smartphone. Again, this is also comparable to other European countries and the US. And this is another representative study that is done yearly. This is called the GYM study in Germany. And WhatsApp is the most popular app adolescents have on their smartphone, followed by Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Snapchat. So the most important thing about this is that digital applications, including digital games, are potentially available always and everywhere. And this is, of course, very different to what we are used to when we were kids. So we can state that digital media became a part of all adolescent life realities. It's nothing that you can like somehow separate from anything at the moment. And I don't know if some of you have watched Adolescence. It's a new Netflix series about the risks of digital media use in adolescence, and it became very, very popular. and millions of people have watched it so far. And it's also, if you have not watched it, I can highly recommend it. When talking about the risk of digital media and use in adolescence, I like this core model. This is a model that has been developed, followed by a study the European Parliament ordered 2 years ago. And this core model summarizes 4 risks. So we have the content risks, the contact risks, the conduct, and the contract risks. And the content includes everything that might harm adolescents, like self-harm, aggressive content, extreme content, fake news, harassment content. It might include ads, spam, so-called sexting. So adolescents might be in contact with that. There's not a good control to protect them at the moment. The contact risks includes harmful online communities, but also aspects like cyber grooming, where adults approach adolescents or even kids to have sexual contacts. Then there's the conduct risk, which includes cyber mobbing, but also problematic uses, the patterns of infinite scroll, doom scrolling, what is used by social media, and also the sharing of inadequate content. And the contract risk includes the digital footprinting, digital security, aspects like phishing, clickbait strategies where adolescents get to pages they do not actually want to go to, also unfair marketing strategies influencing their buying and shopping behavior. So we are mostly interested in the problematic usage patterns here. And I come to this on the next slide. So especially gaming disorder and problematic gaming has came to public attention, especially since the World Health Organization announced the gaming disorder would become an official medical diagnosis. But there was also a lot of concern regarding the very, very popular game Fortnite, that it would be as addictive as cocaine, as it was stated. And we had a large rise of gaming disorder all around the world. So for example, here also in Japan. There used to be a lot of different expressions for gaming disorder. So there were expressions like internet addiction, excessive gaming, smartphone addiction. And you can imagine with like a lot of different words, it was very hard that people actually talked about the same thing. And it was very hard to compare publications on different things. So people used different criteria, they had different definitions, and it made like all the conclusions we wanted to draw very, very hard. So it was a very important point when the ICD-11 was introduced, and it was announced that there's a new diagnostic group under the mental disorders. And this is the disorders due to substance use and behavioral addictions. And here we have the gambling disorder and also the gaming disorder we are focusing on now. And then there's an unspecific rest category. And here there's a lot of discussion actually going on. What should be included there? And the suggestions at the current point are that it should be included a social networking use disorder, also buying shopping disorder, pornography disorder. And we also introduce a streaming disorder to account for this passive consumption of digital content. Then there's another chapter in the ICD-11 that includes actually issues that people would seek medical health without having a disorder. And here we have problems associated with health behaviors. And here we have the hazardous gaming included. So hazardous gaming means you do not have a disorder, but you fulfill certain criteria of a disorder, and you might be at risk to develop a disorder. And there's also a risk category called problems associated with other not or specified health behaviors. And here in parallel to this rest category, we could include at-risk social media use, at-risk streaming, and things like this. So usually in my talks, I show videos of patients. So this, I just want to actually recommend it because of the copyright problems we have when we do it online. I cannot show it to you, but I would highly recommend it. This is the story about actually 2 boys in Australia. We developed a therapy program to treat problematic gaming, and it's called Reset, and I'm going to talk about it later on. And we adapted this program for Australian adolescents. And when I went to Australia a few years ago to actually implement this program, we were accompanied by a documentary film team. And so they made this documentary Game Changer, where they accompanied 2 boys while doing this training or this program. And one of them was Reese. And so in this video, he's introduced, and his mom introduces himself, and it becomes pretty clear that he's actually quite a normal boy that was initially interested in games and just liked gaming, also liked being online and having contacts with other kids without being in a real face-to-face contact, because that made him kind of insecure. And during the COVID-19 pandemic and all the lockdowns, he increased his gaming times up to 8 to 9 hours daily. And he wasn't able to control it anymore. He didn't do any other hobbies anymore. I had a lot of fight with his mom. She wanted to protect him, but he did everything to actually do the game, and he became very aggressive towards her. So this was the story of him. But now is the interesting part, and this was also part of the introduction. So how can you actually detect a gaming disorder? And the ICD-11 has actually 4 criteria that need to be remembered. The first criteria is the impaired control. That means that affected people, they do not have a control about the starting of the game, about the duration of the game, about the situation where they should game or where they should not game, so they cannot control it anymore. They prioritize it over everything else in their lives. That means they do not go to their favorite soccer team anymore. They do not meet friends anymore. They do not care what happens at school. They do not do homework. They do not do houseworks. So the priority is on digital gaming. They continue the digital gaming even though they might have negative consequences. So they do not care about bad school marks. They do not care about fights with their parents or with their friends. They just continue it. And the 4th criterion is very important to avoid over-pathologization, because we know that it is a very popular thing in especially boys and but also girls. And we do not want to over-pathologize it. So to have a diagnosis, you have to have a significant impairment in important areas of life, in different areas of life. So concerning the own physical health, concerning the educational things, concerning social relationships, but also mental states and these kind of things. And the World Health Organization says you have to have all these symptoms for a period of at least 12 months. So 12 months are quite a long time in the life of an adolescent. And I would say that if you have all these symptoms, even for a period of 5-6 months, this has severe impairments if you do not treat it. So the World Health Organization states it should be usually 12 months, which gives us as child and adolescent psychiatrists the opportunity to diagnose it even at an earlier stage. So what about the prevalence? What we did is we used these 4 criteria and the time criterion, and we developed a questionnaire I will show you later. And we did a representative study in Germany where we asked more than 1,000 10 to 17-year-olds online about their gaming behavior. We also asked their parents, and we estimated the prevalence of problematic gaming. And because it was a representative study, we could actually estimate the actual number of probably affected kids. Of course, this is only a screening. They have not been seen by a clinician, but like according to this questionnaire we did, more than 700,000 10 to 17-year-olds in Germany show at least problematic gaming behavior, meaning not only the disorder, but also at-risk behaviors. And what we saw is a significant increase under the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's still an increase compared to 2019. So it did not reach the initial value we had. So in Germany, we have 3.4% pathological users, like fulfilling all criteria, and 8.6% showing hazardous use, meaning at-risk behavior. And we have a clear, we have more boys affected than girls. This is not the case for social media, problematic social media use, where we have about 4.7% affected. So what we did here is we actually used the same criteria for gaming disorder and applied them to the social media use. And what is even more striking is that we have more than 1/5 of the adolescents with an at-risk behavior. We do not have a difference between boys and girls here. And the same is true for problematic online gaming, online video streaming. So here 2.6% fulfill all criteria according to our questionnaire, and 13.4 fulfill at least some criteria for at-risk behavior. So this was the background, and now the question, how does it actually derive? And when talking about gaming disorder, when talking about problematic digital media use, the adolescents are the most vulnerable groups. They have the highest prevalence worldwide, and they're most vulnerable. And we all know that the adolescence for itself is a vulnerable time. And we know that almost 50% of mental disorders firstly appeared before the age of 18. So a lot of things, a lot of neurobiological changes are going on, a lot of neuropsychological changes are going on. And what we know is that the cognitive affective imbalance of the neurodevelopment is a risk factor for the development of addictions. And this theory says that between the ages of 13 and 17, we have the largest gap of a fully developed reward system, but is still a major cognitive control system. So when talking about fMRI activity, like functional activity, we have the highest activations in the nucleus accumbens, which is like the core region of the reward system. But like the prefrontal cortex is still not at the same level as it is in adults. So here the authors compare children, adolescents, and adults. And on a behavioral level, we have the highest sensation-seeking behavior in adolescents, and still pretty high impulsivity at least compared to adults. We want to understand how an addiction evolves and how a gaming disorder or a media-related disorder evolves. Then I really like this TRICE model of addiction. Probably some of you know it because it's pretty simple, and it's really good to also do the psychoeducation with the parents. I can really go with the parents and with the adolescents as well, with the patients as well. So this model says that we have 3 factors that need to be fulfilled so an addiction actually evolves. And these include the personal factors, environmental factors, and the substance factors. In our case, it's the digital game, it's a social networking site. So the personal factors, what we know from a large amount of studies is that adolescents with problematic gaming show deficits in their concentration and their executive functioning. They have problems in emotion regulation, their self-efficacy. They have problems in their impulse control, then their self-care. They have less social skills. We know that they have problems in their self-confidence and in the fulfillment of developmental tasks. I mean, if you work with the patients, they seem much younger than they actually are. And they have deficits in their sleep quality. On a psychiatric side, ADHD is one of the most important comorbidities. So it's actually recommended that in every media-related disorder, you would also screen for ADHD. And also the other way around, if you have a kid or an adolescent with ADHD, you would like to screen for a media-related disorder as well. Other common psychiatric comorbidities are depression, anxieties, especially social anxiety, and also autism spectrum disorders and sleep disorders. The studies are usually cross-sectional, so we cannot say for sure which is first, but there are also some longitudinal studies suggesting bilateral relationships. So especially for depression, we do have both cases. We have depressive adolescents that just start using media a lot and developing an addiction, but we also have problematic gamers, for example, that develop a depression over time. The environmental factors, they contain like the close environment, like the family, the parents, siblings, but also peers, schools, and the larger society. So on the smaller side, we have problems with the parent-child relationship in our patients. We have a problem with the parental monitoring, meaning that parents have problems actually setting rules or sticking to rules. We have the problem with their own self-efficacy, how self-efficient they feel with the digital media parenting. So this is a very important factor. We see problems in the family communication, but also in the interaction with peers, and a lot of problems at school usually. On the society side, we need to consider all the aspects of the digital society we have about the values and norms that are transported. In the internet is more and more available almost everywhere. The costs have declined significantly over the last decades. We have an influence of the COVID-19 pandemic and all the digitalization it came with. And the media literacy is something that is discussed a lot, but there's still a lot of room for improvement to actually have a significant or sufficient media literacy for the children and adolescents. In the European Union, the Digital Services Act tries to get more like a more framework for more safety also, and more framework for digital platforms and what they should do, what they shouldn't do, what they should control, what not. But now we have the problem, how can we actually control this, and how can it actually become available so it's also it's a real protection for children and adolescents. So this is where we kind of are still at the beginning. The third very important part after the personal and environmental factors are the media-associated factors. And this is usually a very interesting part when talking to patients and when doing psychoeducations. This is something they're really interested in, and you always get out, oh, I didn't know that. That's really interesting. It's good to get to talk to them. So the first thing I want to mention is that the digital entertainment industry is one of the fastest growing and largest businesses in the world. And for the last year, a revenue of $750 billion was estimated. And there is an expected increase of 1/3 within the next years. And the majority of revenue is gained by advertising. So this is the global market volume development for digital games, and you see this rapid incline, and we have about $280 billion revenue in 2024. Here the different, see it here, and you have the different games that are used. So you have these mobile games, which is yeah, something that became more and more popular. And this is people play that on smartphones and have it in their pocket. And we see an increase by the factor of 3 within 10 years, which is a huge growth. Another aspect of the media factors is the aspect of marketing, is the aspect of design. And there are a lot of, yeah, they're actually the game in the gaming, especially in the gaming industry, but also for the social media networks and video platforms. You have developers that use psychological theory, psychological knowledge to create a so-called user experience that bonds the users, that increases usage times. And they also use what is called dark patterns. This means you have manipulative design features that have the goal to keep you online, keep you in contact with ads, so you to influence your decision whether to stay on the platform, whether to buy a product or whatever. And this is a picture of the Fortnite final in 2019, and you can watch the last scenes on YouTube, which is highly interesting. This was a huge final with a lot of prize money. So the players, the gamers there could earn $30 million in total. And the winner of that Fortnite final was a 16-year-old American boy who won $3 million. And as you can see here, there was in a tennis stadium in New York, there were 20,000 people in the stadium watching this gaming. And there were another 1 million sitting at home watching it online. And the mean age of the people was about 16. So it's really something, yeah, it's like being a rock star for adolescents. And so the 16-year-old won, and it was really like he was like a rock star. He was really shared and became a millionaire just from one moment to the other. The dark patterns they use are quite interestingly described in this book, The Gamer's Brain. Celia Hoden holds a PhD in psychology, and she used to work for Epic Games. And Epic Games is the business that created Fortnite, which is definitely one of the most popular, most games that gained a lot of money. And in this book, she describes actually what game developers should implement to increase this user experience, to increase gaming time and frequency. And so there are actually 3 patterns you can distinguish that I use. The first one is time patterns. So what they use are irregular intermittent rewards. They use penalties. That means if you do not continue gaming, you will lose points, you will lose a level, you will lose status. You have this open world creation where you can never find an end. You have very highly personalized items you can use. Then you have these money patterns, meaning that money can be, you have to spend little money at the first place or get it even for free. These are the free-to-play videos, meaning that you can download a game free of charge, but if you want to make progress, you have to invest. So that's why it's called free-to-play, but pay to win. You have these loot boxes, which I will mention on the next slide again. And you have virtual currencies that are usually used, from which you can buy a skin for your character. You can design your character from which you can buy power, weapons, whatever will give you progress, and whatever personalizes your avatar, for example. And by using the virtual currency, you're actually losing the connection to the real money. So in Fortnite, it's called V-Bucks, and you could actually go to a supermarket and buy V-Bucks for whatever, 20 euros or something. And then you get so much V-Bucks, but when you're in the game, you do not have you do not think of the 20 euros in that case. And we have done a study a few years ago, and adolescents, they pay quite a lot to make progress. And I would bet that if we would repeat that study, it will be even more. The third very important part the developers use are the social patterns. This is important for games. This is important for social networking sites, but it's also used on online video platforms. For games, you have this ranking. So you want to initialize a competition between the gamers. You have this team commitment. That means you have to play the next round. Otherwise, you would your team would have disadvantages. You have these scheduled games, meaning you have to be there on time. And the problem here often is that you have, like, if you live in Europe and you have a game scheduled for the US time, you might play until deep in the night. So all which is important here, and I've mentioned it before, is the reward system. This is something that is central. So the user experience actually wants to call the reward system to actually have a high bonding. And loot boxes are actually something where gaming meets gambling, and loot boxes are here, for example, in FIFA, a very central part. In FIFA, you have the best gaming experience if you have the best footballers, the best players, and so you can buy or earn these cards, but you do not know what is in there. So these cards contain footballers, and it's like gambling. You do not know. You pay the money, but you do not know if it's a footballer that might be intermediate, or is it a really, really excellent footballer? And if you're interested in that, you could just type in on YouTube, look for loot boxes and people winning or people cheering and FIFA. And then you get a variety of videos where you can watch gamers drawing this loot box, drawing this cards, and if it's like someone like Messi, they cheer, and you can see the whole community cheer with them, and so this is highly emotional and an excellent example for an active reward system. And there's been a lot of discussion on these loot boxes, and there are countries where they are forbidden. Belgium, for example, they are not forbidden in Germany, and especially for FIFA. FIFA was a game that had no age restriction. So if you, like 2 years ago, even a baby could play FIFA because there was no age restriction. And then there was a lot of like in Germany, the USK, these are the ones that rate the games, or also movies, and say if they're appropriate for which certain age groups. And they set up to 23. There's no problem with that. But then there was a court decision in Austria saying that these loot boxes are gambling and they're illegal. And then there was some pressure here in Germany as well. And now they have like a compromise and set the age range up to 12, which is of course still a bit problematic, because that would mean that you could like have the age restriction of gambling at the age of 12. There are a lot of neural studies who investigated problematic gamers, but also other problematic users of digital media. And what we can, if you put all these studies together, what we find here is that we have a difference in the interhemispheric connectivity, that we have a decrease in frontal activities and an increase in reward system activities when we compare problematic users to like non-problematic users. So these are the most important parts we talk about: frontal lobe, the anterior cingulum, nucleus accumbens, orbitofrontal cortex, and the amygdala. And but also interfunctional aspects like the default mode network is alterated. TikTok is, has been on the rise very, very much during the last years, and is one of, as I showed you, one of the most popular platforms among children and adolescents. So we're looking especially worried what happens here. And there's an interesting study I want to talk to you about, who actually compared personalized videos, TikTok videos, with unpersonalized TikTok videos, because like this personalization now really had a significant increase when implementing the artificial intelligence possibilities we now have, we did not have a few years ago. So this personalization, which is also a key part of successful digital games, means that users show an increased activation of the default mode network. As you might know, the default mode network is like connected to mind wandering, to daydreaming. It's like the activities you have without purpose, without a certain task. And this is actually like mind wandering is actually a nice state. It means that you're quite relaxed. And people use that in psychotherapy. But the problem here is like people watch TikTok videos for 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. And the question is, do you really want yourself, your brain, to be like in a mind-wandering state for that long? And what we also know from that study is that the connections with visual and auditory areas are stronger. Areas connected to self-referencing are stronger, and we have less connection to cognitive control regions. And I don't know if you have used TikTok, but I've heard a lot of people, also like healthy people, not addicted people, saying, "Oh, I just wanted to watch a couple of videos. I just wanted to watch it for 10 minutes. Oh wow, now it's only 10. It's 2 hours later. I don't know how the time has passed by so fast." So the idea of developing an addicted behavior is the idea of developing a dysfunctional habituated behavior. So we have a group of irregular gamers, or we have a group of recreational regular gamers, which is a large group and the largest group, of course. But then we have this quite significant group of hazardous gamers who might become disordered gamers. So we have the development. It's a continuum, actually, that evolves. And what is also like important when we talk to our patients about when we do the psychoeducation, describe what's happening, a lot of them tell us they use gaming to reduce stress because that's very, very effective. You do not have to think about worries, about anxieties, about fears, about bad thoughts, bad emotions. The tension goes down, which is nice. But the problem is that the stressor still stays. So you even develop secondary stressors, which make the tension rise again. You get even more stress and you get into a vicious circle. And this vicious circle leads to that liking you game because you like it, turns into a wanting, meaning you game because you need to game. So you can call gaming a dysfunctional coping mechanism. And this is important for the therapy ideas you have with the patients. This is important for the own picture you have of this disorder. So we can state that the gaming disorder is actually a neural and a psychological maturation impairment. We know from our own systematic review we did that the cognitive affective imbalance I showed you earlier, which is normal for adolescents, is larger in adolescents with problematic gaming. On the other hand, adolescents with problematic gaming show deficits in their stress regulation, and they show large deficits in their emotion regulation development. So problematic gaming reflects a dysfunctional coping mechanism to deal with all these deficits. How can we diagnose problematic gaming? And, oh, I was wrong. How do I get back? Yeah. So we developed a screening tool called GADIS, stands for Gaming Disorder Scale for Adolescents, where we implemented the ICD-11 criteria I talked about in a quite short questionnaire. And we validated it in a large representative study, and it has been translated into quite a lot of languages. I don't think someone has translated into Ukrainian yet, but it has been translated to English, translated to Russian, and has been used in adolescents all over the world, and seems to be quite good to actually screen for problematic gaming. And we also developed a parental scale. So we're asking the parents about the adolescents gaming, the kids gaming behavior, which is also quite good validity and reliability. And we adapted the gaming disorder scale for problematic streaming and for problematic social media use. So we could also talk about these digital media offers. So in Germany, we just finished the guideline on problematic internet use. And so this is one of the recommended questionnaires here. We do have a web page called Mediensuchthilfe, where we have implemented this questionnaire. So it's actually adolescents can go on this page and they can click through and they get a summary of their answers and how it could be interpreted. This is in German, but I'm sure you can use online tools to translate that. And we also have the questionnaires available for download. At the moment, I think only in German and English, but you might also make use of online services to translate it. For the treatment, we have the best evidence for cognitive behavioral therapy, but still the situation, the study situation is sparse, especially for the treatment of adolescents. But what everyone is agreed on and everyone is sure about is that we have to include the parents in the therapy. This is nothing new for us as child and adolescent psychiatrists, but it's also especially important for treating gaming disorder and related media disorders. So we developed the resources strengthening training for adolescents and their parents, initially as a group program in our clinic. So this is has the Reset P is a group program for the parents, so P for parents. We have a program for the adolescents called Reset A for adolescents. And we translated these two programs in a digital application. And we developed the program together with adolescents and with parents. We based it on the TRIAS model of addiction I showed you. It's very family-centered. It's modular, so we have different modules. I'm going to show them to you in a minute that can also be used independently. It's transdiagnostic and international. As I told you earlier, we use that in Australia as well, where it seems to work as good as here. It's pretty modern since we have a digital app. We are currently having it in a large clinical study in Germany. So this is the content of Reset. It's a 8 weeks program. So as you see here, and we have a booster session after 14 weeks. So we have the Reset A program where we have sessions that are specific for gaming disorder, but also social media use disorder and streaming disorder, where we focus on change motivation, where we do a lot of psychoeducation, including the ICD-11 criteria, the TRIAS model, the vicious circle of stress I showed you earlier, and where we focus on self-control. Now we have a session on sleep hygiene. We know that most of the problematic gamers, but also other media use disorders are associated with poor sleep quality. We focus on self-care. Then we have the large transdiagnostic aspects of emotion regulation and encouraging positive social relationships and communication skills. And the last pillar includes the relapse prevention. We accompany the whole training by mindfulness tasks. So at the beginning of every session, we present a mindfulness task in the group. It's very it might be games, it might be something that the adolescents really like. We have daily calendars to foster self-observation. We include a training plan with rewards to make it also a bit similar to what they like to gaming. And we do a lot of group exercises. And this is something the adolescents and the group sessions really, really like. And they also like the playful character. This is something when we did a qualitative study, the beginning of the development, that was something that they say is very important for them. And in parallel, we have the Reset P, the parental program, which is an independent group, but it can be held in parallel. So this would be the optimal case, that the adolescent is in the adolescent group, the parent is in the parental group. And they also learn the psychoeducative parts. They also learn about improving communication and emotion regulation and relapse. But they also have some special parental topics, parental styles, developmental tasks. We talk about rule knowledge and rule application. And we also talk about their role modeling and about their own stresses, their own health. And I also talk about the anti-relapse plan with them. So it's pretty similar. They also are asked to fill out a daily calendar to get to know their own media use behavior. We know that problematic media use behavior of the parents is an important predictor for problematic media use behavior of the kids. And we accompany both groups by family sessions. So we have like an onboarding session just with the family and the therapist, where we introduce everything, where we set up the goals and the reinforcement plan. We have an intermediate evaluation and a final evaluation. So this is our reset program. We have it manualized, and we are currently working on the publication of that. This is the reset team in Hamburg, but also here in Australia. And yeah, that leads me to the end of my talk to give you some conclusions. So what is important to keep in mind? Gaming disorder and associated media-related disorders are maturation deficits, neurobiological, but also neurodevelopmental, like from the neuropsychology part. We have a very important aspect of social norms and models. We have a digital society, and this won't change. This is also important for the therapy. We cannot aim for not using digital media like we would do, for example, in substance use related disorders, but we have to foster a healthy consumption, a healthy use of digital media. And we also have to keep in mind that the user binding is the interest of all the platforms we have at the moment. So if you do not regulate it, it's the market that regulates an intense use of digital media. It's a very good thing that we have the classification now, that we have the ICD-11 criteria, so we have the same terminology, or we have the same things to compare, that we all talk about the same things. It happened a lot, like during the last decades, we have a large sensitization and a large change of attitude, and you can hear that by the discussions about these social media prohibiting until the age of 16, for example, we had in Australia. There's similar discussions in Germany. And there's a large good side of digital media as well. So even when talking about all the risk, we have the possibility of using digital support, for example, to bring also our therapeutic contents to a larger group of people. The best thing, of course, is to prevent problematic gaming and problematic media use than having to treat it. In Germany, there are a lot of different sites that are connected to this issue. On the international level, I'm sure there as well. But also I'm sure you can use the German sites with the translations that are offered, and they provide ideas how for parents, how to set up rules, how to have a plan they could use, but they also do a lot of psychoeducation about internet risks and youth protection. I mentioned our Mediensuchthilfe.info earlier. We developed brochures for adolescents, but also for young adults and for parents and people of the helping community. These brochures can also be downloaded, and we have them in different languages. So also not in Ukrainian, but we do have them in German, English, Turkish, Russian, Arabic. And yeah, that's it for my talk, and from now on, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Дякуємо, Керстін. І в нас є питання різні. Зараз будемо говорити. Тут є дуже багато питань, де подивитись відео. Відео будуть викладені на каналі доктора Булавінова, і сьогодні там буде вже з українським перекладом, завтра буде англійська версія. Питання від пані Ніни Єрозіної. Чи є методики профілактики та попередження виникнення такого розладу?
Yeah, I think like the most important prevention starts at an early age. It starts, I could start it in kindergarten with educating parents to support a healthy media usage. So that would be a start. And of course, this should be intensified during the age and during school, also for older adolescents. So encouraging parents to support a healthy digital media use is one aspect. Other aspect is, of course, the media literacy in children at school, for example. Another aspect are the transdiagnostic things we know. This is because we know that digital media turns problematic when it is used as a coping mechanism, when it is used to get away from stress, to escape stress or bad feelings. Yeah, fostering this and a healthy emotion regulation is also a very important prevention method. And also improving social skills and improving real experiences, supporting sports clubs, and kids need to go get more outside, get to play more, and should spend less time online.
Декілька разів питали одне і те ж саме. Що саме привертає цікавість в іграх по типу червоні двері, жовті двері? Як протидіяти їх використання дітьми?
The games, as I try to describe, they are constructed in a way that they are highly attractive, and that especially highly attractive for young people. They have a lot of a very high frequency of awards, of rewards you could gain. So the reward system is actually on fire the whole time when you use it. And I'm not really sure if we can actually prevent it, but we can teach the young people to be more mindful and to be more conscious about what they're doing. And from my experience, it really helps to talk about these addictive features that are built in these games, because even though the adolescents love the games, they do not want to be manipulated. So this is always something where you can get quite into a good contact. On the other side, what is also often recommended is that you, even a lot of us do not game themselves probably and do not really see what they like about it. It's important to talk to them about what it is they really like. And even though we would not game this, or we would not use this game, we should be in a conversation with the kids and try to understand what is so fascinating about it. And by this, we get a connection. And then we get a connection also to talk about risks and about a mindful, conscious use behavior.
Ви говорили про відео, про документальний фільм про хлопчика, що грав в Австралії. Чи є він десь в відкритому доступі, цей фільм?
That should be open access. Yes, it was a few. I think you had to register. Maybe you had to register for ABC Australia. It's a public broadcasting broadcaster, so it should be open access. And I think they also have it on YouTube. At least they did have it.
Так, я бачу, що багато хто написав теми прямо в коментарі. Нагадую, що для нас дуже важливо, щоб ви відповіли на опитувальник про теми, які ви отримували на тих же самих імейл-адресах, куди ми вам надсилали інформацію про цей вебінар. Так, зараз шукаю ще, бо тут дуже багато написали про теми, а я шукаю ще питання. Питання ще тут є про опитувальник. Ви говорили, що ви використовуєте опитувальники. Чи вони є в доступі відкритому, чи ми могли би їх взяти і перекласти? Бо люди питають, чи можна отримувати ці опитувальники.
Yes, you can use these questionnaires. You can actually, if you go on this website I showed you, then I can actually I should show it again. Let's see. I'll share the screen once more. So if you use this QR code you get on our webpage, and then yeah, you need to probably use an online tool for the translation, but then you'll find the questionnaires there for download. And as I told you, they have been translated into different languages like Russian as well, and have been shown that that it works there. So for your clinical work, I'm pretty sure you could just use them and translate them for your purpose. And there is screener, of course. They do not do the diagnosis for you, but they you get a good hint. Then you have these criteria explained to you by the ICD-11, and then you can add your clinical questions to the screener. But just to get an impression, a first impression, these screening tools are pretty useful, I think.
Наступне питання від пані Оксани Чук. Часто при спробах коригувати екранний час дитини в дітей виникає багато злості та агресії. Як з цим працювати? І ще одне питання на цю ж тему від пані Тати Дворяковської. Який ліміт онлайн-ігри в день, на вашу думку, не шкодить?
Yeah, so the first question, I think this is something every parent knows, is the fight about media use. So to some extent, this is quite normal. What you should, or what we should do, or all of us should do, is we should have rules in advance. So the problem usually we see with the families where the kids show problematic gaming behaviors, they have more reactive rules that are of course not very successful. So in the best case, before even buying the first smartphone or before buying the first computer for gaming, you have fixed rules on when or when not to use the game and for how long to use it. So this is the most important thing. If you have missed that, you have the possibility of negotiating contracts. So you would have to sit down with the kid and negotiate what would be a good amount of time, and what also needs to be done in the real world. So not only focusing on what should not be done in the digital work, but more what should be done in the real world. And then the question now about what gaming time is not harmful. This is a pretty tricky question. As you notice in the criteria of the gaming disorder, the gaming time is not a criterion. This is due to, it's on the one hand, it's difficult to assess. I think there's, it's usually, I mean, you could use screen time, but if you ask it, usually the people underestimate their own time. This applies to adults as it applies to adolescents. And we have, I don't know, you might be familiar with with esports. The esports are professional gamers. They game and they train like 8 hours a day, but that does not mean that they are problematic, that they're addictive to games. So even a long time can work together with a healthy life if they have if they have a good good weights on the reality as well. So if they have their social relationships, if they have enough sleep, if they eat enough, if they follow their academic achievements, and so this is more the criteria we should focus on.
Пані Наталія Науменко питає, у якої частини підлітків з ігровою залежністю діагностується депресія і наскільки призначення антидепресантів зменшує прояви ігрової залежності?
I'm not sure. Could you repeat the first part of the question?
У якої частини підлітків з ігровою залежністю діагностується депресія?
Okay. Okay, so what is common in depressive adolescents and gaming disordered adolescents? Right? The percentage. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I cannot, so the percentages when you're talking about comorbidities, they have quite a wide range. So it might be around 20%, but I'm sure if you look into the literature, you might also find totally different numbers. So this is still, yeah, it's not something we can actually say on a real or really safe way. We also find numbers of 60%, so it's really difficult. From our clinical experience, a lot of all the patients we see in our outpatient department, but also in our day clinic, on the ward, the majority of them have a depression. So let's say 80% or something. So really a lot of them. And if they fulfill the criteria for a depression, it makes absolute sense to treat the depression. And by treating the depression, you might also get an improvement in the gaming disorder, but you have to treat the gaming disorder in parallel. So this is also true for ADHD. So you would also, there are studies showing that using stimulants in ADHD patients with gaming disorder reduces the gaming disorder, but it does not for gaming disordered patients without ADHD. So you always have to treat the comorbidity, but together with the specifics of the gaming disorder.
Наступні питання тут однакові від декількох учасників. Як підліток потрапляє у вашу програму в Німеччині?
Yeah. So We have, like in Hamburg, we have a specialized outpatient center where patients come and where patients are screened, and then they have the possibility to join the group program. They might, if they have a more severe symptomology, might be entering the day clinic where they also have access to the group program, or even to the inpatient unit where they also have access to the program. And we try to work with the parents in parallel to offering that as well. We also have a partner clinic who uses the program at the moment in Kiel, so north of Hamburg, who do that in an outpatient group setting. And for the online application, currently, it's still in the evaluation study. So we, up to 2 weeks ago, we actually included patients all over Germany. So we had, or I have partners all over Germany, outpatients that have been screened and have been included in the study, and where they had got access to the app, to the online app to do the training program. So this is it at the moment. We're working on the manual. We have a lot of questions, a lot of requests for our manual, but so we're still working on the publication. And as soon as it's published, actually, everyone could buy it and use it in his or her own praxis.
І останні два питання на сьогодні задаю. Пані Тетяна питає, чи ефективна терапія побудована на принципах біхевіоризму, тобто Applied Behavior Analysis, прикладний аналіз поведінки в лікуванні ігрового розладу?
We have the best evidence actually is for cognitive behavioral therapy in general. So, but this together with systemic approaches, this together with a lot of motivational work you have to do. So it's probably not one element or a couple of elements that are efficient. It needs quite a variety and quite complex. But it could be an efficient element, of course.
І питання ще від іншої пані Тетяни, але теж Тетяни. Як не викликати супротив цим контрактом у дитини та залучити до зміни мотивації, зацікавити у виконанні вправ усвідомленості, якщо зараз в дітей і соціальні зв'язки, і навчання відбувається онлайн?
It's a special situation if you cannot really talk to the child face to face, right? So what we do in the digital app is that we provide videos of usually it's breathing exercises, and I think this could be something, but it needs, of course, you need to accompany it. They need to understand why they should do what they should do. And we try to select the mindfulness exercises, so not in a very classical adulthood way, but more in a kid's approach. And yeah, it's a challenge if you just try to approach them online. I think also that they do it and understand what they need to do, I think.
Ми дуже дякуємо вам, Керстін, за вашу презентацію, за те, що ви взяли час відповідати на питання. Нас було багато, більше, ніж 500 людей, значно більше, ніж 500 людей, до речі, на цьому зумі. І ми всім дуже дякуємо, хто вирішив побути з нами сьогодні. Запис ще раз буде доступний на каналі доктора Булавінова, і українська версія буде доступна, і англійська версія буде доступна завтра. Ще раз всім вам дякуємо і бажаємо тихої ночі, наскільки це можливо в Україні наразі. Ще раз дякуємо, Керстін.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.